Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education workshop meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Time is now 7:03 p.m. We could please stay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Education workshop meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Time is now 7:03 p.m. We could please. Today is Tuesday.
All right.
Okay, do I start over or are we good?
Nope, no,
All
you're
right. We can stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And with me this evening, I have board member Howard White, Ashley Bouillons, Jasmine Cressy, Mary Ellen Flaherty Ludwig, Janine Randolph, Kara Bakey, Sherry McCready Pritchard. I also have Dr. Estrella and some of her cabinet members this evening. And with that, I'm going to transfer the meeting over to Ms. Bakey for spotlight.
Thank you, Chairwoman Carpio. So this evening, we have two spotlights. The first one, Autism Acceptance Month, April 2025. To bring acceptance to the unique perspectives of people with autism and autism spectrum disorder, the Norwalk Board of Education is proud to recognize April as National Autism Acceptance Month. April has widely been known as Autism Awareness Month in the United States as a way to empower autistic individuals and their families. Over the last few years, the autism community has shifted its language to National Autism Acceptance Month to match the growing need for acceptance within the community. Norwalk Public Schools wants to thank Jeff Spar, Deputy Corporation Counsel for the City of Norwalk, for inviting members of the district's Specialized Learning Department and NPS community to be a part of the worldwide Light It Up Blue campaign on the Norwalk Green on April 1st, which actually just occurred and some of our members were there. In the school community, Autism Acceptance Month is an opportunity for schools to champion inclusion, celebrate diversity, and foster understanding of autism within their communities. It's about more than acceptance. It's about how you show up for your pupils and peers to create a school environment where every child feels valued, supported, and included. Autism spectrum disorder and autism are both general terms for describing neuroatypical brain development. Autism impacts social and communication skills. It exists in all races, ethnicities, and social groups. Some 5.4 million American adults and 1 in 36 children have been diagnosed with autism. Boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism than girls. Early intervention can improve learning, communication, and social skills, as well as underlying brain development. Applied behavior analysis and therapies based on its principles are the most researched and commonly used behavior interventions for autism. Many autistic individuals benefit from early interventions such as speech and occupational therapy. More recently, inclusive programming and support have shown significant promise as children are provided the opportunity to learn alongside their neurotypical peers while receiving targeted and intense interventions. NPS provides students with a variety of support systems throughout the district, including co-teaching classrooms, LEAP, high school programming, and NPS transition programs. The district is also working to install 10 new communication boards on school playgrounds that can help bridge the communication gap between non-speaking or minimally speaking individuals and their caregivers, teachers, and peers. By declaring April as Autism Acceptance Month, the Board of Education aims to foster acceptance to ignite change through improved support and opportunities for autistic individuals. Our second spotlight is Paraeducator Appreciation Week 2025. The Norwalk Board of Education is proud to recognize the first week of April as Paraeducator Appreciation Week, a time to honor the dedicated paraeducators who make a lasting impact on the lives of our students each and every day. Paraeducators are essential members of our school communities. They provide critical support in classrooms, assist in the delivery of instruction, and build meaningful relationships with students that help foster academic success and emotional well-being. They are particularly vital in supporting students with disabilities and those facing learning challenges, often working in close collaboration with special education teachers to ensure all children receive the support they need to succeed. The profession of paraeducation has evolved significantly. Once viewed narrowly as assistant roles, paraeducators are now recognized as skilled professionals with valuable expertise. In Connecticut, paraeducators complete extensive training to prepare for their roles, gaining the knowledge and tools required to provide direct student services in dynamic educational settings. From supporting individual learning plans to helping manage classrooms and extracurricular programs, paraeducators are the heartbeat of our schools. Their work is essential to student achievement and critical to creating inclusive and engaging learning environments across the district. Norwalk Public Schools is committed to educational excellence and equity, and we recognize that this mission is only possible through the partnership and dedication of our paraeducators. We are proud that the profession is gaining long overdue respect, and we are deeply grateful for the impact these professionals make every day. The Norwalk Board of Education wishes to thank all our paraeducators for your compassion, your perseverance, and your tireless support of Norwalk students.
Members in the room, please stand and come to the front so that we can recognize all of you. Just be careful with the mics. I think we might have to go outside to take the picture. Let's see if we fit. Maybe we should go. Yeah, oh, yeah. We can try. If we can't get everyone, then maybe we can go next to the star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't know. Let's try.
Let's try to have them in the U first.
Yeah, the you here.
And then if not, we'll go.
JJ, you guide people because you would know best.
Taller people in the back, please.
Colin was.
We're gonna try to have like 8 across. As many as we can, and then have the board behind maybe, and then as many people as we can fit in here as possible. I think we should be okay. The board might be a little hidden back there.
That's huge. Yeah.
I think. Can we have a couple of the board like in this corner, of the table, and on the other side? Howard, you're tall, you could be like right in the middle, yeah.
Can you see the board back there? I don't know.
Probably.
No. I think you guys are gonna have to come around.
Yeah, you little ones.
Maybe some of the taller, Howard go where Howard is, and then we can mix and match it. I'll go to the back. You should.
Sorry to be a big here.
I don't know.
Over here, my name's Sherry. Yeah.
One of the steps.
It would have been easier. All right, can I see everyone's face in the middle? Yeah, just so I can see you. Yep. All right. Everyone look towards me.
Can you see the board members on the right?
Yes, I can see everybody. Can everybody see the camera?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. How about what you're presenting? I think. Is our speakers there? Did the camera see them when they go there?
Yeah, they're seeing basically this way. I'm standing.
They can see Hope there.
Let's move this a little bit forward, because we move this back for the picture.
I did. They're going to click on it. JD. The floor is yours.
So first, we want to thank Dr. Estrella for being our superintendent, as well as the board members. Each and every one of you play an important role in making sure that paraeducators are able to do the work that they do. We want to say thank you to Mr. Pennington as well, who makes sure that professional development is offered to each and every professional and staff member in Norwalk Public Schools. Paraeducators are the glue that hold the district together, especially in the classroom. They work really hard alongside of each and every teacher, oftentimes covering classrooms, oftentimes even working with the most difficult, challenged students. But we always look at it as it's not a challenge because we love the work that we do. And so in that, we make sure that our students, because when they come to the classroom, when they come to Norwalk Public Schools, they become our students. And so we really cherish them, and we take them and we try to do just like we would do for our very own students. And so in that, the work that each and every one of these paraeducators do means a lot. And so we are thankful that you have recognized. We went yesterday to the Capitol where the governor recognized Paraeducators Week. And so we've been fighting a long time for that because they are the glue. And so we were able to accomplish that with him on yesterday. So March 30th through April the 5th is nationally known as Paraeducator Week. So thank you for being a big part of that here in Norwalk. But we were honored to say that our superintendent allowed us to be a part of that at the Capitol in Hartford on yesterday. So thank you again, Dr. Estrella.
Thank you. And thank you for representing us at the Capitol. We will be further honoring our paras in a few days. We're going to have a little celebration for them just to thank them for their service. And please stay tuned to all of the spotlights that we will be doing and started to do, just celebrating the great work that they're doing for the district. So we will be showcasing them throughout the scope of the week. Thanks to JD and the communications team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait before they go.
Guys, don't go yet.
Hold on. I just wanted to say, I think you all are amazing. I think all the teachers in our district are incredible. I could never do that work, but especially the work that you all do. I have a sense of how difficult it is. I'm not a religious person, but if I was, I would say you all do God's work. So thank you very much for all you do for our kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your dedication and your commitment is truly commended. Being able to dedicate yourself to our students and to do that in the working environments that we deal with nowadays it's not easy. So I say thank you for everything you have done and everything you continue to do, because good work is shown and it shows because of what you guys have shown for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leaving out of the meeting, we just don't want you to think we're being rude, but some of us are traveling to do some more professional development on tomorrow and Thursday. So again, it is a collaboration with Dr. Estrella's cabinet allowing us to be able to travel and even get more professional development.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion of approval of a trip, international trip.
On the Belize, right? They're going to Belize, is that the Belize?
Yes. So it's, the STEM travelers are going to Belize. I have questions and concerns about protocols. From what I understand, and our policy is that any trip, field trips or any type of trips, we should have a 4-month notice. We were not given that on this trip itself. I see that this was signed March 28th. March 20th, doesn't really give us enough time to review and discuss the trip itself. My question to you, Dr. Estrella, is how long, and were you able to review everything, talk about safety and the children traveling? I mean, because right now with the climate also in this world, that would make me concerned, and as to why also not enough time.
So our office received the information about the trip March 21st of this past month. My concern is that I didn't want to steer kids away from having this opportunity. We did review the documents and the information that we require is there. Our policy is that we require this international trips to have 4 months of anticipated approval from the board. This was communicated to the school about the expectation around trips. We typically don't have an issue with schools following through with the required dates as expected.
Do we know why that didn't happen this time? Why they didn't do the 4 months?
The claim was that it was sent through inter-office mail, and we never received that information. We typically don't have trips go through inter-office mail. It's usually sent through to Don, scanned and emailed. So we reiterated this to the school about the expectation of making sure that the information is sent to Don with the 4-month anticipation so that we have enough time to put it forward to the board. There's also the expectation that fundraising and money collection doesn't happen until the board approves, because if for any reason the board decides not to grant permission, then we don't want to be in a predicament where we are withholding money from students or funders without first having approval from the board. And as you know, CGS, for example, is a school that participates in yearly international trips. And as early as September, they submit the information to the board. So this is not an uncommon practice in our district. We just want to make sure that all the schools follow our policy.
So we've gotten other proposals for trips that was less than 4 months.
No,
No.
that, I'm just using
Oh.
that as an example as a school that does international trips, that does follow the process.
Yeah.
So it's not an uncommon practice in the district. We will be sending all principals a reminder of the policy in our P weekly so that everyone is reminded of the expected procedures that everybody has to follow.
I just think it is moving forward. I just think it's very imperative to follow the proper protocol for it. I don't think it's fair that the kids will be the ones, and I'm not saying we're voting against it. I don't think it's fair that the kids they'll lose out on the end, but it's very important that we follow those procedures. I know me, I'm a stickler for stuff at the last minute period, you know.
But I agree with you, for me, more of the safety issue, especially with everything that's going on. And I'm looking at the paperwork, and the submission date was January 27th, and we're just getting it now.
And they're leaving in
No.
2 weeks.
Just to be clear, the document says that there was submission date, the actual submission date to our office was March 21st.
Right.
That's when Maura received the email with the information. So we have no record of anything being submitted in January, and even January 27th would have been late.
Right.
And then the other concern is, if we were to say, I'm not saying I'm gonna deny it, but if we had, as a board, decided not to go forward with this, I'm sure these families have already put a deposit, like you said, have paid for it, and just.
Yeah, I mean, flights,
if they're leaving like next Friday, I assume.
Yeah, 2
I mean,
weeks.
they're
Yeah,
like-
so how far along is this in the planning?
The policy is that they are to submit at a minimum 4 months in advance without making any arrangements or fundraising. Because if you decide as a board to deny a trip, we don't want to, like I said before, withhold any funding or start a process or make promises to students that we cannot adhere to.
Right.
So I became aware of this trip when Maura brought it to my attention,
Which was March 24th.
March 21st.
I'm just curious, like, is this all booked? Like,
This is all booked.
this is booked.
They're booked, bags packed, ready to go.
Dr. Estrella, when you reviewed it, you saw that there was plenty of insurance before this trip, and everyone was,
Our legal team reviews the documents before they're put forward to you, and all the documents were in place. We can do another another if the board deems it appropriate. And we can email you with all the documentation that we saw in place. And if you have further questions, we are more than able to respond to those.
I want them to be safe and, okay if there are delays in flights and insurance, canceled flights, just
Mhm.
so many things that can, go wrong. We hope best, and certainly an opportunity to travel to another country is a wonderful experience for a student to broaden their ideas and to interact with other cultures. But I have a little unease at hearing that everything was rolling ahead.
We were concerned, I was concerned as well, but I also was cognizant of what the impact this would be on children. And I wouldn't want to place the kids in a predicament that they would lose an opportunity because of something that was not under their control.
Right.
At the same time, so this sets a precedent for any other school going forward who submits their paperwork late then too, right? Does
Well, we
that
can
mean
make
that
this-
we're now gonna-
Yeah, we can make a statement right now that we won't approve anything that is not
And the thing
within
is
the
too,
protocols moving forward.
I mean, you need a passport to go to Belize, right?
Yes.
So I would assume that somebody has made sure that all of the children who are going given our population, I would hope that that's been looked at because we don't want anybody left behind and can't get back.
And yes, and that's a good question. What is our procedure if a child can't get back in? What are we doing with that child who's staying with that child? Because we didn't have to worry about that before.
Yeah.
And for the record, Colin Hostin has joined virtually.
Well, I'm strictly for when it comes to decision-making concerning youth, I mean, everything for the students. I'm for, you know. However, I think this is something that really needs to be discussed further in the near future. You know, because last minute, it's truly unacceptable. You know, and I think, you know, because I don't, from a safety standpoint, safety is what we're driving off of. And especially with the way things are going now anyway. And with our kids, you know, that's very, very important to me. So I just think moving forward, you know, anything that adult decisions are being made is adult driven. And it's not in the best interest for the kids to be the ones that lose out. However, like you said, Diana, moving forward, you know, I'm so hardly supporting this fact that anything that comes across of this magnitude, it doesn't matter what the situation is, it's a major liability issue. And it could become a major liability issue.
Colin, any questions, comments?
Thanks, and hi, everyone. Sorry to be joining virtually. I'm in my car. You know, I agree with all the observations so far. Obviously, I think it's better if folks can comply with district policy in terms of the timing of these requests. However, I you know, defer to the superintendent and her team that they've reviewed the documentation, and you all's in order for this trip to take place, I'm prepared to approve this. With regard to what's happening at U.S. borders in recent times, I think we don't have full control over that. We have to make sure that every student who goes on this trip has the proper documentation to come back. But beyond that, there's not much else we can do.
Okay. Well, thank you. I need a motion to move this trip forward. Mary Ellen, seconded by Ashley. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Can do.
I'm abstaining.
Oh, yes, any abstentions? Couldn't think of the word.
I would love them to go on the trip. But there's just too much of a concern, particularly with all of the immigration issues. That's really more concerning to me than the fact that we don't want to set a precedent for other schools, that it's okay to submit last minute. And the names of the people who submitted it, I'm surprised because they do a lot of trips. So I'm surprised that it was
I was surprised.
done that
also.
way, because they're usually on top of making sure things are timely. And as you've indicated, I don't want to prevent children from going on a trip. It's exciting. I also don't want to see anybody get left behind. I just want to make sure that everybody's paperwork is in order. I mean, if I could be assured of that, maybe I'd feel differently.
Okay, well, since they're leaving on Friday, there's not much we can do with this right now, but like Howard said, moving forward, we stand strong, that we need the 4 months notice so that everybody can do their due diligence to make sure these children are safe and everything's in place properly. So that is 8-1 vote on this trip. Thank you.
No,
And
it's 7-2.
I mean,
Did Sherry abstain?
she abstained.
Yes, Sherry.
Kara abstained.
Oh, Kara abstained, so Sherry Pritchard and Kara Bakey abstained. That's 7-3.
I wonder if we do need to look at any further, like seeing how things continue to go with travel and immigration, if we need to look at any further safeguards for future trips.
Well, in the
I don't
past,
know.
in the past, we have also canceled the trip the day before.
Mhm.
So that I am not worried about, but like you said, just keeping an eye on
Yeah.
the travel restrictions for any type of trips moving.
And we
forward.
look at the travel warnings, and if the code is beyond a certain level, we would not allow students to travel to the destination. In our part, I advise the team to put out a reminder. I think we have a very strong policy in place to safeguard the things that were highlighted as areas of concern. And the 4 months is a good frame of time for people to get everything in order. And like I said before, many of our international trips are done a year in advance. And if you notice at the beginning of the school year, particularly with CGS, you get their request early on. So it's not an uncommon practice. I know that there was communication about suggestions of changing the policy to narrow, and I told them absolutely not. I think 4 months is a good amount of time, not too long, not too short, to allow for due diligence to take place. So
Yes, because even a trip to be scheduled out of school, you don't do that overnight. You just don't have that conversation. You know, by the year before where the next year's trip is going to be.
Yeah.
Dr. Estrella, could we ask for in this particular case, a special look at a report from the organizers of the trip that they personally look that every child has a a passport that it's not problematic, that we just have a little bit more diligence than we normally do on overseeing that they are truly prepared.
I'll have our legal team look at all the papers again,
Thank you.
just so that we have someone with a legal background, make sure everything's in place.
Okay, next item on the agenda is end of school year.
Thank you. So I just want to update the board and the public. As you know, we had one school closure this year due to weather. Typically, we try to make up that day, but we are within the 180 days required. If we added that day to the calendar, it would put us in having a day on a Monday. The likelihood of us having a strong attendance day would be very slim. As you know, we still have to by next year hit 181-day calendar to make up for that day that we closed schools when the fire happened at the bridge. So given the way the layout of the calendar is for 25-26, it becomes more feasible for us to do the 181 days, because our last day of school is a Tuesday, so we can add that additional day without a problem if we needed to add also snow days for the upcoming school year. The end of school year schedule is as follows. Monday, June 9th, we have a normal dismissal. June 10th, normal dismissal. June 11th, normal dismissal. June 12th and 13th, the last 2 days, we will have a 2-hour early dismissal. And June 13th is the last day for our students. Our graduation schedule is as follows. Friday, June 6th, Center for Global Studies graduation will take place at 6 p.m. June 10th, all of our middle school promotions will take place. The schedule to be determined. We're working with the principals to finalize that schedule. Historically, for the 2 larger comprehensive high schools, we fluctuate when the graduations happen on a Friday because of the construction and the fact that we're using someone else's space. That will not always happen until the construction is finalized. So June 11th, 2025, Norwalk High School P-TECH graduation will take place at 11 a.m. at the Total Mortgage Arena in Bridgeport, Connecticut, 11 a.m. June 12th, 2025, the Brian McMahon CGS graduation will happen at 6 p.m. at Brian McMahon CGS campus.
Brian McMahon, only, I thought you said CGS was the second.
CGS has 2 ceremonies, so they have their small private ceremony that will happen June 6th at 6 p.m. And then the joint graduation for Brian McMahon and CGS will happen June 12th at 6 p.m.
So we did not end up having to make up this snow day? We had one built?
We had 181 days
Okay,
built
so
into
it's
the
built in.
calendar, so we're good. And let's just hope nothing happens between now and the end of the year.
Got it, okay.
So we will be sending this, we'll be posting this online, and we'll email this document to everybody on the board as well, so that you have it. And we will be sending out the notice to the board so that you can decide which graduations you will attend. So we'll send that soon as well.
Okay, so we're starting the work sessions. I will transfer the rest of the meeting to Dr. Street.
Thank you. One quick second. Perfect. So, as you know, we've been working on a series where we've been building on certain topics so that the board, as well as the public, learns about the work that continues to happen across the district. So we have 3 stations that you will have the opportunity to engage in. The first station is around the portrait of the graduate and the competency that we will be further developing for the upcoming 25-26 academic school year, which is the competency around effective communicator. As you know, this year we've been actively integrating critical thinking as a competency of focus. We will continue our work around critical thinking because that, as you know, that is a very extensive competency that it will require a number of years for us to fully integrate. Yet we're going to be slowly building an effective communicator as the next competency within the scheme of our portrait of a graduate. We've been working really hard with Digital Promise as well as other districts across the country to look at how we can most effectively integrate AI within our portrait of a graduate. And instead of seeing the work we do around AI as something so separate and apart, we want to make sure that is embedded into the work that we do as a tool and resource. So some of the work that we've also done is look at different frameworks across the country to effectively integrate AI into the competencies that we've already built. So you will learn more about that alongside Kimberly today in one of the fishbowls. The second piece is around mental health and the work that we've done about counseling support. Although there's a lot to celebrate, there's also a little bit of a grieving process that we're going through, particularly because so much will be lost through this budget cycle that have yielded so many positive outcomes. So although you're going to be learning a lot about the work that we've been doing around supporting students in the area of mental health, particularly how counselors have been doing this work, we also have to keep top of mind that many schools have reduced the number of counseling supports because of the constraints that we have within the budget. But I think it's important to elevate the great work that's happened around mental health by our providers here in the district, as well as in partnership with other providers across the city. The third group is we have our students who will be showcasing a lot of the work that they've been engaged in around AI. And they will be speaking about the work that they've been working alongside their teachers, digital coaches, and other support staff. And they might teach you a thing or two. So I think that session will be the highlight of your evening. No offense to but I think this will provide some good context. As we transition to closing the academic school year, we will start immersing, once we culminate some of these discussions, in talking about what the board wants to focus on for the 25-26 academic school year. So we've added actually an additional session with the board because we need time with you to kind of brainstorm around the goals we have this year, what needs to be further amplified, what needs to be added, so that we can start developing a working draft of the goals that you want us to prioritize for 25-26. So that's work to come. But with that, I just want to highlight the fishbowl stations for today and where you're going to start off. It's not the most ideal because originally we planned this at the Family Center, but as you know, we have Say Yes to the Dress and Tuxedo happening, and they needed the space, and we always bend for the sake of our kids, right? So we had to make some adjustments. But station 1 will be in room 300, which is here, and Rob Pennington alongside Carol will be focusing on the mental health component. Diana, Mary Ellen, and Janine will be joining that group. In room 322, we have Ralph, Amy, and our PONUS scholars that will be joining you in 322. That's Kara, Colin, and Jasmine.
If I can just make a suggestion that Colin, since he's virtual, to just stay in room 300 with the group.
Okay, so let's have Colin swap with Janine. Janine, do you mind going to 322?
No.
So we keep it in sets, in groups of 3. And then, in room 330, we will have, Kimberly on the portrait of a graduate alongside Marianne and Allison. And, Howard, Sherry, and Ashley will be joining that group. We're gonna try to move in like a clockwise rotation. So the people that are in room 300 will rotate to 322, so on and so forth. The staff, the board will stay stationary. As we've done in the past.
Wait,
Oh,
well, how is that? Oh,
what you
Lori
say?
stays here and the Colin will.
Yes, correct. And then depending on where you are, you will move to that station. Parents, if you want to join your scholars, they're going to start off in room 322.
Kara, Jasmine, you guys.
Yeah, they're gonna follow you. Oh, you know, parents are. How was the event? Were there a lot of people?
So Diana.
Attended.
You guys are gonna say, are you parent?
No, these are.
Okay, you're gonna go to the other room or stay here? Okay, they'll eventually circle over here,
Okay.
so you should be good.
You guys are gonna move up to the front.
Okay.
Hey, Carol. Carol, so good to see you. Hi. We're a distant, but we can still be friendly. Yes.
Love how you set up the high school.
Yeah.
Middle school. That was great.
Organically, we do that, right?
Okay, I'm gonna start the timer.
Get started.
Hi, Mary.
So over the last few months, we have had a learning series centered around mental health. We started with our student use survey and some of the data and the work associated with getting the results that we've had. Last month, we had Mid-Fairfield Child Guidance come in and share some of the partnerships that we have and the work that they have done in our schools. And today we really wanted to dive into the work of our amazing school counselors. And we even have 3 counselors here with us today. We have Fabiola Esteves from Kendall. I almost got it wrong, but from Kendall, we have Madeline LaRose from Rhoton, and we have John Castelluzzo from CGS. And so if throughout the presentation or at the end, you would like to ask any questions, I think that they are the perfect people to jump in and share because they are living the work day in and day out. And I think it's great that we are able to celebrate them and see some of the systems that have been able to be developed over the last few years in supporting our students, and they are key to that. So I'll turn it over to Kate.
I like those smiling faces.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So when I knew that I was going to come and speak this evening and have the opportunity to showcase and elevate the work and role of the school counselor, I really sat down to reflect as to where I'm going to start because they do so very much. And so what I thought would be really interesting was I started with the evolution of the school counselor. How did we come to be school counselors? What were our roles back in the day? And if you take a look at the next slide, I've actually done a little bit of research on the school counseling role and its evolution. And one of the interesting things you'll see as we take ourselves through our different eras here is we started out as career advisors. So just looking for that career advisor element in the 1900s. So I ask you to take a thought back for a moment to Little House on the Prairie and think about Miss Beadle, who ran her one-room schoolhouse, right? I'm convinced she was a school counselor because first she would be on the playground mediating a situation, turn it into a social emotional learning event while still on the playground, and then at night take her buggy and horse and do home visits to the farms and to the families, which you notice attendance was slipping because it was harvest time in Walnut Grove. So that's kind of where we started. And since then, if you take a look at the school counselor role column, you'll note that we've gone to testing and moral support. So that's where we've become, in grades kindergarten to 12, the absolute cheerleaders, the cheerleaders for our scholars, for our families, and also our faculty and staff as well. We've moved into career and academic counselor as part of the role. And then in the 60s and 70s, the holistic student. So looking at all of our scholars as a whole. And then in the 80s and 90s, coming into our expanded duties phase. And then lastly, from the 2000s to present, our mental health support and advocacy phase, which has been really the most constant, the longest era, as we can see, and is data-driven and student-focused. That's absolutely imperative that the work that our school counselors are doing is focused and steeped in data, purpose, and very targeted. It really is exceptionally important. And one of the things I wanted to note that I thought was interesting in looking at the evolution of our roles is that while they changed from era to era, they stayed with us, right? So we're not saying, okay, it's the 1900s, we're no longer career advisors. No, we're doing post-secondary planning. So it stayed with us as we've evolved as school counselors. So then I thought about the really big bucket things that we do. I can assure you that this would be probably about 5 to 6 more pages. So I just really went with big bucket items for us to focus upon and just touch upon briefly this evening in showcasing their work. And we know that they are our 504 case managers, provide academic support and monitoring. And I've really kind of highlighted the roles that really require their master's level skills. As they walk into a role as a school counselor, they must be master's level when they apply for the position. So that's important to know. And a lot of the things I've highlighted here are very steeped and nuanced in their skill set and the skill set that they've gotten in training in schools during a practicum and an internship, and also for many years in the role and the position. So you'll see we have here post-secondary planning, crisis intervention and response, family engagement and connected services, group and individual counseling, and mental health support and advocacy, just to name a few of the very large buckets. It's important to note that they're highly skilled at pivoting on a dime, that often their best laid plans for the day can shift, and they do shift. And it's just something they're so good at. And it's something that is really unique to them and to the staff. Lastly, I want to say that our school counselors are by nature oftentimes empaths, compassionate people, and put others first. And so just to see these broad, buckets of work that they do, when I then parsed this out and I looked at every single category I had here, there are at least 5 or more tasks that go within each category. And I spared us from that this evening. I didn't include it, but I did my own journey and deeper dive into what those tasks look like for us in these particular areas. So how do our counselors support mental health in the district? They are really, I would say, a tremendous piece of the ecosystems in the school when it comes to our mental health for our scholars and our families. And one of the systems and structures that we implemented with them 3 years ago is our scholar tracker meetings. And what I'd like to showcase for you here is the program has expanded each year, and now we're at 8 to 12. And what this really means is we know that school counselors will be meeting with their scholars upwards of 10 plus times in a year. But what we have asked of them is we've created a data system platform where they're able to go in and kind of tell us what are the reasons why you've met with your scholars for the first 3 meetings. Because this data helps us inform and support their work at the school level. The data helps us inform and pivot and work on programming. And this data helps the counselors be able to organize their tier 1 screening. So what does that mean? School counselors' caseloads are comprised of all scholars in the building. And what that means is that they now have a data set in front of them that they themselves have created. And they have 15 categories to choose from. So when they meet with a scholar, they might select academic support. They might select friend or peer issue. As they've had their first, second, and third meetings each year, they now have a data set right in front of them where they're ready to move on and now group students for some tier 2 services. This data is shared with our building leadership as well, with our leaders who work directly with our school counselors, and we can see it in real time, which is really great and a tremendous method of support. The reason why I have these dates here listed is that these are just the first, second, and third meeting windows. So their first meetings would be done by October, second by January, and third in April. So I've had an opportunity to talk about what this looks like from a data perspective. So I wanted to pivot now to, this is for our high school scholars. This data I'm sharing with you represents this year only, grades 9, 10, 11, and 12 for meeting 1 and 2. So the meeting that's happened between August and October, the meetings that have happened between November and January are reflected above. So you're seeing their work, and what you're seeing is our scholars' needs. You'll see approximately 4,600 grade 9 to 12 high school meetings that the scholar was getting some type of academic support from the school counselor. Second to that, you'll see schedule support at approximately 2,600 meetings of schedule support. Third, you'll see about 1,600 post-secondary planning meetings. And then for attendance support, you'll see about 2.7%. This data is reflective of the 4 high schools and includes our Future Ready program as well. I only listed the top 4 items to give you an idea of what the data looks like, but understanding that it is really ranked from number 1 to number 15, because those are the different categories available to the counselors. Another important note is that when this system was created a few years ago, there were established categories. And what I've done with the team over the last 2 years, I work with them very consistently in a feedback capacity and have asked feedback from them, from the high school counselors, from the 8th grade counselors, in terms of what are the categories that we need to see systematically across the district. So they've had a lot of input as to the categories. We've taken things out that don't work. We've had a lot of conversations, and that's one of the other ways in which I work with the staff is on a lot of feedback, because it really needs to work. It's very important that it does. So when we go on to the next graph, in the same way you saw the first graph, this represents our 5 8th grade scholar meeting reasons for this year for meeting 1 and meeting 2. So you'll see that we came in first with schedule support for 355 meetings. We then moved into friend and peer issue for 323 meetings, and this is for 8th grade only. Then we moved into academic support at 302 and school choice 279. So we're able to see the support areas, and we're able to have the counselors really look at their data and prepare it in a way to get ready to prepare for tier 2 level services.
And I'll just add middle school, I think you can see there's some different needs than in the high school. And so that really does give us a window as well. So when in the high school where you see the amount of post-secondary planning, and in the middle school, you see it's a lot of more of the peer relationships and peer conflict that can come up, which happens in middle school.
Another way that school counselors engage our scholars is through career pathways. So in our schools, I would say in our 9 schools from grades 6 to 12, we have 45 career pathways. So our school counselors will meet with their scholars and help them select their career pathway based on the course catalog at their particular school. Once again, a data system has been created for the school counselors, and in that data system, the names are loaded in on their caseload for them, because it's really important to me and the work with the department that they do not the lifting, that I'm able to provide for them, that system's created and they're able to work in that system that helps support their work. So that's another way in which our counselors, grades 6 to 12, are engaging our scholars as well. So now I wanted to pivot down to 6th and 7th grade, because last year we started for the first time our social emotional learning developmental guidance push in tier 1 services started last year in 6th grade across all of our middle schools, delivered by the school counselors. The part that I think is very important to note is our school counselors have written the curriculum. That curriculum has been written by our counselors for our counselors. And I don't think there's any other better way to provide that service to our scholars, that our counselors have said this is what should be provided. Now, we do tie it to the state standards. So the Connecticut Counseling Framework is provided for us by the state of Connecticut from kindergarten to 12th grade. So we take the standards for social emotional learning, much like we would instructional standards, and we utilize those to create the curriculum. One of the things I talked about was the feedback that I received from the school counselors to ensure that we're moving in the right direction in everything that we do together as a team. And one of the feedback points that I received last year from the team was that some of the lessons were too long in the space. And I also received feedback that there were too many lessons per year. So that was changed. The lessons are now less per year. And they actually have now been changed with the team around attention span research to better match what the counselors need when delivering the curriculum in the classroom with their scholars. I think you can see we're journeying through all grade levels. And now we are in our journey, we are in grades 3 to 5. And in our schools, our building leadership will greatly determine what types of programs that they will implement in K to 5. So in other words, when it comes to social emotional learning, some schools will adopt second step. Some will utilize Move This World. Some will utilize Ruler. There's a lot of programs out there, and oftentimes building leadership will choose the programs that are right for their school, their culture, and their stakeholders' needs. So I wanted to mention that as well. Now we're going to journey to kindergarten and 2nd grade. And as we get into kindergarten and 2nd grade, think workforce development. So the same way in which the counselors have written the curriculum for social emotional learning, we also have workforce development standards given to us at the state level, state of Connecticut. Those have also been written by our school counselors in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd. And they are being implemented through these grade levels. Again, counselor feedback has said lessons were too long, so we changed that and made it based on attention span research with the counselors. And we also drilled back the number of lessons per year. And so what you're seeing is what I call a pacing calendar. And that ensures that the systems and structures throughout the district, that all the kiddos, whether they change, there's a sibling in a different school, there is standardized implementation happening amongst all the schools. When we talk about all of the different programming that the counselors are engaged in every single day to support mental health and wellness in the district, it's important to note that the staff also has needs of their own to be able to support others. And so one of the things that I've worked very intentionally for in the last 2 years in this role is to provide professional development based on their feedback and needs that help anchor them in the work. Because I will tell you that being a school counselor, kindergarten to 12th grade, is very hard work. It's very rewarding work, but it's very hard work. This year, I was able to partner with Silver Hill Hospital, and we have a resiliency coach that I brought into the staff. And so a lot of our trainings are around resiliency. And the nice thing is that the counselors like about it is that this training can be used with scholars, with families, but really the purpose here is for them to use it for themselves. We've done self-awareness training, self-regulation, and so on throughout the entire year. And that has actually been in kind from Silver Hill, no charge to that. So it's something I'm very proud of, and I'm hoping that we can continue that partnership into next year.
And I'll just say, I think one of the pieces of feedback that I heard early on is that there wasn't always professional development for our school counselors. It was, okay, we have PD day and counselors have things that they can catch up on because they have lots and lots to do. But we've really tried to be intentional about trying to build in personalized professional learning that will benefit the work that they do day in and day out.
Another thing that I've developed this year for them is school counseling newsletters. I know at first blush, it might sound like, well, it's just a newsletter. However, the newsletter is very purposeful. So we have our K-8 school counseling corner, and we have our grades 9 to 12 guidance gazette. And when the newsletters go out bi-monthly to the school counselors, it's very purposeful because it's a one-stop shop for them to house all of their information, their initiatives. They can always go back and rely on it. They can always go back and look on it. And I write it in such a way that they actually are able to copy and paste the information and share it directly with families on Parent Square, in Google Classroom, over email. I don't want them to recreate the wheel. I want to supply them as much as we possibly can to help build capacity and allow them to save precious time. It is steeped with flyers and links and everything that they need at their fingertips. And then the next point of feedback that I received in my first year in the role was because we follow that the 80-20%, the 80% direct student service and the 20% indirect, which really speaks to record keeping and paperwork and all the things that come along with the job. They really needed time to do the work. And so we've created a school counselor workday. They are able to select an available day. They come to City Hall and they have a full day at City Hall where they're doing their own work uninterrupted. They can write letters of recommendation. They may choose to work on their meetings, whatever they choose to do. They have a day at City Hall. I ensure that that's approved with building leadership so that they're over here doing their work. And it's something that is working for them and just giving them more time. And then lastly, one of the things I've really developed is the school counseling practicum and internship program. I intentionally partner with colleges and universities. We bring in practicum students who have to do 500 hours in one semester and internship students that have to do 1,000 hours in a full year's time or 2 semesters. And right now, we currently have 9 practicum and internship students placed in support of school counselors. It's completely voluntary. The number changes every semester based on a counselor's wants and needs. A counselor has to be in the field, in the profession for at least 3 years to take on a practicum student or an internship student. It's their way of giving back to the profession and helping growing the profession at Norwalk Public Schools. At the same time, it helps our counselors tremendously in their work with their caseload. And what I like, it grows their leadership skills. It grows their supervisory skills. And so that's really exciting to see that particular program expand in the way that it has. I just wanted to take a brief moment to thank our school counselors for coming out this evening. We had 3 that have come out to represent kindergarten to 12th grade. And we have with us this evening, John, Madeline, and Bobby. And we're just so happy they're here in support of the staff and the team. And I did want to mention that the high school counselors and the college and career specialists, along with their assistant principals that work with them, have put together the 39th annual college and career fair. So that's really exciting that it's been happening for so long. It'll be April 23rd at Norwalk High School. We hope that you all come out and come to the event. It's over 200 colleges and universities will be there. And it's a great event every year. They've worked really hard on it. With that, I wanted to say thank you so much for having us here this evening and allowing us to elevate and to really talk about the role of the school counselor. There's, I could go on and on for quite a long time, longer than you'd want me to speak on it. So it's very near and dear to my heart to be able to elevate and bring their work to the forefront. They all work so very hard. So I just wanted to thank you and open it up to any questions, should you have any.
Thank you. I'd like to start with Colin. Have any questions?
Thank you, guys. Just find the unmute button. Nothing from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
Yeah, I have 2 questions. First, Carla, it's a really heartwarming report, especially the history. It maybe feels on your shoulders that, from a little schoolhouse to now, you're doing all to this moment. There aren't more seconds in a day than from then, but still you have to fill them. I have a couple of questions. First, I love the idea of having a day to come to City Hall. Do you love that idea?
We do a lot.
How often does that occur?
Well, we choose at least one day. Is really hard, at least for me, to be out of my building because there's a lot of high needs, even though we do have social workers, psychologists, we get to be on call all the time. So, but it helps with our organization. We have, at least for me, I have in-house 504 and also out-of-district 504. So I need to be very organized when it comes to those things and having all the paperwork on time, make sure that we are on compliant is like a top priority for us.
And so how often?
At least once in a year.
One. So
They can
not
come-
once a
we have
month?
we have
Oh,
a
that
fall
would be-
semester offering and a spring semester offering, so they can come up to twice a year.
Twice a year, twice a year. I'm not finished, I got.
That's okay.
I don't think I'd be able to swing once a month, but I can think about it.
And one of the reasons is because if they're in their building, even if they're working on something, 9 out of 10 times, someone's gonna be at their door needing something.
Right.
And they can tell me if I'm wrong, but I've seen it.
Yes, yes. So then I have three questions, unless you want to ask. So they're kind of all related. But the second question, since everything is so data driven, I'm wondering what happens when you have the children in front of you and you're categorizing what category it's going to be in. Do you actually record as you're talking to them? Or when they leave, you record? How do you get to record? What?
I would say I do it after each meeting. I try to do it as much as possible after each meeting,
So you
while
need a
still
little
fresh in
break
my mind.
in between, yeah.
Yeah, there are times where I wait until the end of the day because like, Rob was saying, there are sometimes, interruptions, that happen just by normal course of the day. So, but I pull it up, at least for me, like I pull it up as one of the tabs on my computer every morning, just because I know I'll be meeting with multiple students
Right.
that day, and then just try to make a concerted effort to remember to do it after each individual meeting while it's still fresh.
And I asked that question because I was trying to imagine in this data-driven age, an experience that we all have maybe when we go to doctors. Now, some doctors they're sitting next to you and they're writing all these things about you, and it's not as interactive.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose is to interact with that child in front of you. So I'm really happy to hear that you're able to, do it, squeeze it in later and back and forth.
The other thing that
Go ahead.
Carol did is she just made it a drop-down menu, so they don't have to type anything. It's
Thanks,
just,
Carol.
you can select which category, like, you find the student's name and then you just click the drop-down and you can select which
Mhm.
category it falls into. So that it isn't this full-on, you have to type in a bunch of things, you're just really focusing in so we can
Mhm.
keep track.
I don't know, Carol, I think you're a keeper.
Wait, I remember Carol, she was my son's counselor way back in the day. And I remember how excited she was at the college fair then. And I'm talking to all the parents. For me, I was sad to lose Carol as counselor, but extremely happy that central office received Carol and all the work that you're doing. And one of the biggest things that I'm looking at is the Silver Hill training at no charge. People forget that every type of job, profession, career needs professional development and training, just renewing their credits and all of that. And mental health being such an important part of a child's life, that is huge. One of my questions is, you had mentioned 15 sections of this program. Does every counselor hit every single section or only some, like within a school year?
Great question. So the Scholar Meeting Tracker asks counselors to record just 3 of their meetings. And we ask them to do that between August and April. And they will often hit 3 or more because again, they might meet with a scholar 10, 12, 14 times in a year. And when there are 15 drop downs to choose from at the high school and 15 for 8th grade. And that just speaks to the variety of opportunities they have when engaging the students. It could be about, a home issue or maybe a friend peer issue. And so it's 15 represents just the meeting reason that they are in fact meeting.
And every single child goes through this, or?
That is the goal and the expectation, absolutely.
And how does this fit into seniors or juniors and seniors that are already thinking about college?
That's a great question. So what we would see then with that data is that the juniors and seniors meetings are likely going to be more focused around the post-secondary planning and the academic support. And so another nice variable to the data is time of year. If we check back after April, we're going to see a lot of course selection. Whereas tonight, when I showed the top 4 for both middle school and the top 4 for high school, we didn't see course selection because certain things can be somewhat seasonal, as we like to call them.
One last question. 504s, they're under attack right now. I mean, do you know more than I know? I've read that there were. What do you know about 504s existing?
Well, right now our school counselors K-12 are our 504 case managers. So they work on the 504 with our 504 coordinator in terms of compliance. And the state works with our 504 coordinator and our CT SEDS program manager as well. So we have a robust system in place to support the work.
And we haven't heard, shifts. I know there's a lot.
You haven't heard any shifts?
There's a lot of talk around.
Okay, I read a couple articles about it and I was like, oh my gosh.
At the national level, but we have not received anything at this local level.
Good to hear.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you to the school counselors.
322. All right, we're moving to the next room.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Good to see you all.
Take care of this whole picture.
Bobby, thank you for being here. Maddie, thank you for being I don't want them to stay late, no. Alex had an eye on her. So Ethan didn't have her for singing.
But
5 minutes to present. And the rest is Q&A. Okay, we had a little mix up.
Hi, sorry, I went to the wrong room. That was-
I was wondering where everybody went. I rescued them from the wrong one.
Okay, I don't actually, do I go here?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes,
we
right
both
there.
do.
I,
Good. Hold on for that.
when I cue you, JD, do you mind moving it to the Menti?
Do you want me to use? I'm gonna click it.
You'll have to switch. Okay, thank you. Welcome. So tonight, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me tonight. I'm really excited to be here and share with you about the portrait of a graduate work. Sorry. And so in the last couple of sessions, we've been focusing on AI literacy and thinking about the interconnection between the portrait of a graduate and how AI works in service of the portrait of a graduate. Tonight, we're going to shift gears a little bit and think about the effective communicator competency, as this will be the upcoming focus for next year in supporting to deepen our work in critical thinking. And so we can, is there like a clicker?
Next slide, please.
Next, thank you. Thank you, JD. So with that in mind, then we'll be deepening our understanding of the critical thinker competency by exploring its connection specifically to social emotional learning. I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Robin Gredinger on thinking about this connection between communication and social emotional learning, as well as digital literacy in our digital media. And then we'll be exploring sorry, JD, go ahead and go back 1 second.
There's a clicker here.
Oh, there's
Oh. Thank you.
I don't know. I'll stop moving things. And then we'll think about how it builds on our critical thinking work as a next phase. All right. So with that in mind, next slide, please. Thank you, JD.
Clicker doesn't work.
The clicker doesn't work. That's okay. We're going to skip the Mentimeter for right now. But what I would like you to do is to share aloud, when you hear the phrase effective communicator, what words or traits come to mind?
You're asking us?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're so far apart from each other. I know.
Camera, we can't.
Yeah. Someone that makes you feel comfortable, clear.
Not shy.
Good listener. To be effective, there has to be some listening and then responding.
Yeah.
And then listening in both directions, listening to what actually has been said and then responding to that and thinking about it. So wherever that communication is going on both sides, to be effective, I would say listening has to be in there.
Yeah, so like that reciprocal of really listening and building on one another's ideas. Right inside. Yeah, absolutely. Next slide, please. Thank you. So those were exactly what we're trying to get at, right? When we think about like, what does it look like and sound like to be an effective communicator? And one of the things that you hit on is like this clarity of like making the thinking visible. So when we think about like why effective communicator and like this branch from critical thinking to this communication piece, something that we've found that we continually heard throughout is like, I don't know if my students are critically thinking unless they make their thinking visible to me. They have to be able to communicate it. And so when doing the feedback cycles and speaking with building leaders, educators, and coaches, often when we did the qualitative, when we looked at the responses and looked at our interviews, then critical thinking was the most common competency stated. But communication was the second piece, which makes sense, right? Because these two are very much interconnected, and that in supporting students to be able to think critically, then they need to be able to articulate exactly their thinking to others. And so when we think about that next step for our district, it's really making that thinking visible through increased student discourse, and through supporting our students in part through the literacy vision, and supporting our students to be able to read, to speak, to write effectively with one another, and to articulate those ideas. The other component, can we go back for a second? Thank you, Judy. Is that this was very much informed by feedback, and the feedback cycles as noted, and that when speaking with our district leaders and coaches and educators, when asking about like the different strategies that they're using for critical thinking, many of them were actually related to student discourse and supporting their students in being able to articulate their thinking. And so that leads us to, next slide please, the launch framework, and thinking about like where are we as a district as we think about launching this effective communicator. And so this is based off of the PDSA cycle, and I believe you have the handout. I think, no, okay.
I mean, we have a handout.
You have a handout,
But it
maybe
doesn't
it's not
look
that
like
one.
that.
Okay, all right, I can get this one for you. But essentially, when we first start with identifying the focus area. Oh, you got it? Okay, great, yes.
All right,
Okay.
it's beautiful.
Oh, the communications team, it's all them.
Yeah.
Gotta hand it to them. They're amazing.
They are amazing.
So the first component is identifying the focus area. And this is, as mentioned on the prior slide, it's based on data. It's thinking about where are there synergies within our district to really align this work. The next component is building the framework, which we're going to dive into a little bit tonight, of these key resources that we utilize as a district to support the work moving forward. And then building capacity. So this is where we think about like that professional development. And this is where our district is headed. So the building the framework and developing the capacity is really kind of where we are as a district. And then the next pieces will come more in the summertime. When we start to develop those school alignment and the educators. Thank you. So thinking about where we're headed moving forward, then we often reflect on how we got to where we are today. And so when we think about supporting our students in becoming these effective communicators that can articulate their ideas clearly, then we want to think about too, like, well, how has communication changed? So over the past 10 years, what communication skills do you think, and this is a question to you all, have become more or less important?
I'm gonna show my age. I just saw a spreadsheet of when the first cell phone came out here in Norwalk. And my son was making fun of me because I didn't have a cell phone, you know, growing up.
Right.
But access to social media, bullying has increased because of it. The fact that, you know, way back in the day, we had to trust our children and know that hopefully they were making the right decisions and they were safe out with their friends and things like that. Now it's everything is in the palm of their hand, and they could either take it very negatively or very positively. And how do they handle all that information?
Things have definitely changed. Just not to be too funny, but one of the communication skills is being able to type quickly. That was not important at all, or very little 10 years ago.
And also spelling now. I know that everything is so abbreviated now that I shouldn't say most, some students don't even know how to write a word because everything is abbreviated on their cell phones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So reading is a totally different language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's still very important to be able to write clearly and be able to speak clearly about whatever topic you're involved in. Put your feelings, if it's about what's in a cell, it's just writing about it and speaking about it. Those are still very important.
Colin, I want to forget you're over there. Okay.
It was interesting, actually, this idea of like speaking clearly. It came up in the last group about how it's almost more important about the clarity now than it was before, because so much is on digital. And so we lose like that tone piece or like the intonation, because now it's like it's all spelled. And so it's like, well, what do they mean by that? So it's almost like you have to be even more clear with the words that you're choosing, because you don't have these other signals.
There's no tone in text.
Yeah. Which I thought was a really interesting point. It's like, I hadn't thought about that, but that's how I use ChatGPT. It's like, please help me make this more clear, right? Because that's something that I want to be really thoughtful about. So moving forward, thank you. Then when we think about like, how do we bring this to life in Norwalk? Then there's a couple of resources that we have really used as pillars. The first is our theory of action. And it's like this: if we support students in having these opportunities for critical thinking learning opportunities and opportunities for them to practice their communication, then they will have opportunities to practice and become stronger, effective communicators, is essentially this idea. And so we had this based on, it's called the instructional core, but really what it is that there's this interaction between the student, the teacher, and how they're facilitating the classroom, and then the content of what's actually being taught. And so through this interconnection, then we want to be thoughtful about each of these components and how we're developing and supporting systems and structures to support our students to have opportunities to practice effective communication, and then get feedback on that. And so one of the ways that we, go ahead and turn the slide, think about like, well, how do we support our students in becoming these critical thinkers? The first piece is becoming really clear on what we mean by an effective communicator. So just like we did at the very beginning of like, what words or traits come to mind when we think about effective communication, we want to get really specific on what does it look like and what does it sound like for our students to be effective communicators. And so we've developed a vertical articulation document, which is really just a nice way of saying we've broken it down by grade levels of what it looks like and sounds like to be a communicator, to be an effective communicator. On this first page, we essentially have our three kind of buckets of actively engaging with others, tailoring communication to different audiences, and clearly and persuasively articulating ideas. And then we have our criteria, which are kind of like the different components. And across our grade level bands, then we're supporting our students in developing these different criteria. And then you can see in your packet that we've then broken it down by the different grade levels. I think one of the pieces that I'd like to highlight in our last couple of minutes together is that this is an iterative document. That's very much based on feedback that we're receiving from our building leaders, our district leaders. For example, when we first provided this map to our building leaders, the grade level band was pre-K to 2. And we received feedback from our elementary school teachers or leaders that like, that's too big of a grade level band. There's so much development happening there. We need this to be broken down into smaller chunks that's more developmentally appropriate. And so that was one of the pieces of feedback that we received on it. But I'll let you have a chance to look at it. And do you have any questions about this work?
It's amazing how detailed this is as I'm reading it. How long have you been working on this for a while?
A couple months with a lot of amazing team members providing insights. Dr. Robin Gredinger has been an incredible resource in that. One of the pieces of feedback that we received was this interconnection between SEL and the effective communicator. And so together then we took a look at the Connecticut social, emotional, intellectual habits of mind framework. And then we were able to interweave that into this effective communicator, which I think is going to be really exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
And we're just talking about autism today. And of course, we know, that's the definition of a spectrum.
Yeah.
They're high functioning and medium functioning and down to not speaking, but communicating in some ways. But I see this is broken down enough to help what any students that might not be neurotypical, but that they just will have something to hold on to, that, okay, this is what it looks like to communicate, and see that. That'll try, very little steps, a lot of detail on this.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think we've made sure that our team is comprised of MLL specialists as well as our special education department, so that they bring in that different perspective and lens. So we really make sure that this map that's used across our school districts and is very much like a visual, is very prominent across, that it's really representative of all of our learners and that everyone sees themselves within it and sees like that next growth step that they can take.
Wow. So will there be activities that will exemplify what we're aiming for?
Yes, and so that comes into the content component of so when we think about like our critical thinker rollout, then one of the things that we did was that in our ELA and math curriculum, we then tagged critical thinking learning opportunities. And then there was a one-pager on the front of every unit plan that showcased like, this is how students can engage in critical thinking learning opportunities, and this is where they're present. So when we think about for the effective communicator, it doesn't necessarily, we're not sure if it makes sense to necessarily tag it because it's something that's happening across, but essentially thinking about like, how do we make it known that across these units or within the content that students have opportunities to engage in communication practices. And this is how they are developing this communication skills.
So how do you make it known
Exactly.
to the child who's going through this, and also to the teacher? Because it might feel so natural. Obviously, you want the kids to be talking.
Yeah.
But to know you're actually working on one of the qualities of portrait of a graduate. So that'll be interesting when you saw that.
And we're starting.
No, I was just gonna say that even with the critical thinker, schools were very intentional at the beginning of the school year, really aligning that component to the school's vision. And so, I'm sure that they will continue to do that with the effective communicator as well, so that if all staff members know that we were focused on critical thinking this year. It was rolled out in PD. It was evident in the PD plan of the school improvement plans. It's in our instructional look for document that we use as a district when we conduct our learning walks, both at the district level and the school level. It was in there, very clear. So we'll be making adjustments to that look for document as well to incorporate the effective communicator. But as Kimberly said, how do we know that kids are engaged in critical thinking? Based on what they say, what they're writing, right? So this just sort of builds on.
Yes.
And will push children to make their thinking visible through communication, so that we actually know that they're engaged in critical thinking. So they really work hand in hand.
I'm just thinking, I saw, I was in one school reading to a kindergarten group, but I walked through the hallway and there were just little signs about some drawings, and it was typed in, this particular standard is used in looking at devising these kind of drawings, and so there's a sense of, when I walked in the hall, that the instruction was standards based. It actually said the standard, and it, just little kids walking by. It's not, but that to me is elevating that. If you know what you're learning besides just general, then you can go home and say, I'm an effective communicator to your mom, you know where you're going, you know, and same for the teachers that they may have been doing a lot of these things intuitively or naturally, but then they, okay, we're actually fulfilling part of this portrait of a graduate.
Mhm.
And I like that term, making thinking visible. It's
Mhm.
really, we don't want kids sitting quietly. You may be thinking, but I can't tell.
Right,
Exactly.
It's good. I mean,
Well, I do have more slides, but I didn't know what our time was.
do we have people out there waiting?
I think we do, yeah.
Yeah, close, because it's,
I think it's about the
I
time.
think it's
The
like
next group
20
is
minutes.
coming.
15, 20 minutes. Now, this is really impressive, really, how are the teachers responding?
I think that the work that we've been doing around the portrait of a graduate has really provided clarity around expectations. And teachers really know what the instructional priorities are and what we're focusing on.
Yeah, so it's not just one
Many-
more thing, it's actually clarifying.
And that's what even when we rolled out critical thinking, we were building on work that we had already started around standards-based instruction, right? And we intentionally, not just us as a district, at the district level, but school leaders, coaches, intentionally selected critical thinking because it aligned with the standards-based instruction work that we were doing in the prior year. And so similarly, we received feedback on the effective communicator as well, as sort of continuing to build on the work as opposed to feeling like something totally different.
Right, so that's what you want to avoid. You want, just like, okay, we're deepening what we're learning, and we can articulate more clearly what it is that we're learning.
And many teachers, as part of the formal evaluation process and their goal setting, selected goals that align with student engagement in the classroom or student discussion, and creating learning environments where that can happen. So, this will be a continuation of the work for many of them who had goals centered around that.
Meaningful.
Mhm.
We don't have any teachers here to tell us that, yes, back you up. But.
Well, many of them did, in working with leaders, many teachers did select goals around student engagement, student discussion, planning for student discussion, creating a learning environment.
Creating questions.
Creating the environment, yes, questioning and discussion, so.
Awesome. Do you need to have any water or anything like that? Even extra?
She has her big bottle of water. Are you able
What?
to pause while we transition?
Oh, yes.
Thank you, JD.
No problem.
Appreciate your help.
I appreciate it.
Get ready. Last group in.
We're excited about this.
So you're signing currently, do you want to sign UM? Okay.
Actually, she went and she knew us a little bit, but something called a blue envelope. Do you know about that?
I read it in the paper.
Yeah. Really good idea. Misunderstandings. And a person might be on the spectrum, not answer quickly. And how did that start? Insulin. Disrespectful. How did what like the blue envelope? There've been so many.
I did this on the second.
Oh, yes.
I
Not, you know. Issues.
almost.
Everything else you guys need to sign into or?
Wait, check it out. He was walking. And can you go to? He was looking past them, and they kept telling him, so go a little bit of the one.
One?
Yeah, it works. It works. It works.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna order that, but I had the Connecticut meeting. Between 5:30 to 6, and I was I didn't go to Norwalk, so I took it. And I was gonna rush over there, but then the pizza thing, and then I just came straight here. And I thought we were at the family. So
I went to the family center.
yeah, so I would have been like, it would have been fun because if you left.
It was close. Because actually, most of the time. I didn't, I looked at workshop and.
That's what I would say, I just assumed. But the good thing I looked, I would have been over there.
Well, I sent you a text. See.
But you said, over there, and I knew.
It's for Ethan.
So sorry. Oh, God, this is so
Welcome.
You get someone to be over here with you there. They're gonna actually keep watching on you. So.
Should we go that way?
How are we gonna do it?
Yes, that's
what
you're
right.
Just
Hi, good evening.
Look at that microphone.
Wait, I just.
Diana.
Huh? Oh, we just had an epic one. Too much. It's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like, wait.
That's cool.
I think he's down. She's down. He's on the something else.
Yeah, there's more. There's just not.
Yeah.
It's the.
Great. Good evening, board. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm just gonna do a quick introduction. We've talked earlier this year, we talked about different ways that we're using AI. We've shown you teacher to teacher options, teacher to student. And tonight really is an opportunity for our students to really talk a little bit about the work that they're doing with AI and with other digital learning tools. With that, I'm going to let them kind of take it from here, but I did want to introduce, besides our principal who is here in the back, right, Dr. Lewis, for joining us and helping to lead bonus in this area. We do have our digital learning coach, Amy Fuscarelli, who has really been there since the beginning to really help cultivate this culture and build this up. And we also have Peter Pisacrita, who is our technician. And one of the things I talked about earlier this year and over the last couple of years is that we really want to make sure that all of our staff are actually working with students, including the technicians. And this is like an example of that. If you talk to any of our techs, one way or another, they're usually involved in some club, some activity that students are doing as well, and actually connecting with kids, not really just working with computers. So with that.
So this is our student tech team. We started this 3 years ago, Pete and I. And with that, close to 4, yeah. And so we started off with a small group and now we've expanded. There's a few that are still missing, but they go anywhere from fixing computers, troubleshooting them, all the way to like cybersecurity competitions. We're starting them in the middle school level, as well as other kinds of video production if they do anything for the school and they want to publish it. Or anything else, like we have visitors that come and they go around and lead the way. So it really has come a long way and we plan on still going. So with that, I'm gonna leave it up to the kids.
Hi guys, we're from Pony Street Steamers Academy, and today we'll be showing you how we use AI in our classrooms. And Canva, there are many tools in Canva that use AI, such as image generation, music generation, voice generation, style generation, and we have AI generated avatars. And we also have a Magic Studio that uses AI, and we have layout suggestions from AI. And if you press on the generate images and QR art, this one.
No, I can't see. It's back.
The blue, the one with
Right there.
yeah. These are many images and graphics generated by AI, and this shows how like AI can make stuff. First lecture. No. And overall, this is how we can use AI to help us presentate many presentations, like in school. And in school AI, we can talk to many historical figures, and it can like tell us about like where they're from or what year they were born in, and we don't have to go to a website to actively research it.
When you say, hold on, excuse me, when you say have a conversation, you mean like if you were talking to Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. School AI could help us to have conversations that we would never imagine. Some examples are Abraham Lincoln and Cleopatra and other famous idols. This can help us on what they did in the past and how it affected our society as one in the world.
Okay, so I'm sure we all heard of ChatGPT, very popular tool throughout all schools in the district. It's a very powerful tool as well, when used correctly, of course, not cheating, disclaimer. But it's used to help brainstorm for projects and products, or to make big concepts understandable for kids our age, or to do simple research questions. An example I have is this screenshot in which I was doing research for a mental health project in my health class on autism specifically, and I was researching treatment options. And it provided a list of a bunch of options, but it also didn't just give me the name, it also gave a brief explanation of what it does and how it helps so I could further understand the topic. And it's not just used for broad research questions, it can also be used for math or science. But it won't just give you the answer, which is something I really like. It gives an in-depth explanation of how we got to that answer, so that way you can do it the next time. Another thing I really like doing is making it say things. For example, say hello to you guys.
This slide is all about Adobe Express. We can use Adobe Express to get our projects done, to bring our visions to life, and it can help us create fun videos using characters. Here, I took a screenshot of the Adobe homepage, and as you can see, there are many different tools we can use. Here, we can make a video, create a graphic, animate your voice, build a web page, and use an AI generator. I happened just to use this AI generator, and I typed in a girl walking her dog, and this was a cute and fun picture that showed up. And I did have a video animating your voice, but unfortunately we've been having technical difficulties, but I can just describe it to you. Basically, all you need to do is pick a character of some sort, and they have such a variety, so I'm sure you'll find something. And you can just browse and put an audio in, and Adobe will automatically calculate head movements and syncs to create a really nice video that's realistic and fun. This is SciSpace. SciSpace can help us learn, it lets us chat with our sources, and it helps us finish projects. Here, I screenshotted the SciSpace homepage. All you need to do is just type in a question, and it will come up with articles and different papers that you can look at. If you read through the whole article and you're like, I'm still stuck on this one question, you can chat with the paper. You can just ask any single question you want, and it will give you an in-depth answer with lots of bullet points and answers that are easy to read.
Translation tools, specifically Google Translate. I think we've all used it before. We can use it in a plethora of ways, specifically communicating and breaking language barriers. So I typed in, hello, where are you going in English? And then it said it in Spanish. And then there's a link right there. And you can type anything you want in like Spanish or English or any language, and you can translate it to any language you want. And then you could listen to it. It may not work because it didn't work like last time.
Hi.
And then you can listen to it here. It also helps you finish work because and helps you communicate. I've personally used it to talk to kids who speak Spanish because they don't understand me and I don't understand them. You could also talk into it, so it's easier and you can write longer things. And yeah, that's how we use Google Translate in the classroom.
VR, AR experiences. What we do, we could use VR goggles to show how virtual reality works.
We can use the VR roller coaster to show on how to use the VR goggles. Fun experiences to use to make them feel comfortable and get them feel to be engaged. And this could also help them have good memories. And if you put some facts in it, they'll actually remember it.
We could use fun facts in the VR to learn on the way. So at the end of the day, we could learn something new.
Okay, so one time in 6th grade, my science teacher, Miss Esther, she gave me and my class VR AR goggles, and we were learning about the human body and what was in it, and we learned the organs and how it functions of the human body. You could also go where it's not humanly possible, which is says right here, number 6. This could be due to the fact that if you don't have enough money, maybe you do, maybe you not. You could travel places in the world and you could actually buy VR goggle. You could also go to the Eiffel Tower, the Leaning Tower in Pisa, Great Pyramids of Giza, and any type of landmarks that you want to go to. And you will also be relieved you will also not be stressed anymore once you go with VR. AR, because it's like you'll be like out of this reality.
Bring the field trip to the classroom. One time when I was in social studies class, we were researching things about Africa, and I got to see a real life cheetah.
We use AI and book creators to generate images and bring creativity into the classroom. We use it to increase our productivity and express the ideas we want it to when making our books.
We use the AI generator to type a short prompt about an image we would like, and then click enter. It'll give you a variety of images you can choose to add into your book. It'll make it easier to get the idea you want people to see when you're in your book. The AI pen we use to draw things on our own if we don't want to generate the images. And the AI pen will correct your drawing and it'll give you like suggestions of what you can add, or it'll give you a variety of stuff you can click and it'll correct your drawing and you can add it into your book.
Student tech team. We decided to include student tech team in our AI slideshow due to the fact that if student tech team wasn't here, we wouldn't be where we are at today with all the resources that we have. Student tech team is focused on helping the teachers fix student tech team is made to help the teachers elaborate on like what they do using technology. We also got to play around with the VRs and kind of explore the different settings they had, the different places they could bring, and in order for the teachers to get the experience to the max.
The student tech team isn't just about fixing the hardware of computers, we also fix the software of computers, including screens, keyboards, and many more. We also have the opportunity to look for the problems and find problems in the Chromebook before we can fix them. And while we're fixing them, we give the kids loaners so that they can continue on with their work while we're fixing their Chromebooks.
Cyber Patriots is an educational cyber program that helps students towards careers in cybersecurity and allows more computer science careers.
So here at Bonus, we have a Cyber Patriots team, which is basically so I don't know how many people can be at it at once, but it is a group of students that go out and work on that have problems with the schools. Our schools do go to competitions with schools around the district and in the state. And if we do good enough, we go to the finals in Washington, D.C. What we do as a cyber patriot is we do a variety of tasks trying to help the computer, such as maybe deleting malware or deleting apps that is not necessary that could bring malware into the virtual machine. Also, another thing that we could do is giving users the right access. Like if a user is not supposed to have administrative access, we could remove them, or if the user is supposed to have administrative access, we could give it to them.
We also do stuff like changing the passwords of the users on there and updating policies. The policies are what allow you to create a password that's secure enough on the virtual machine, because we don't have a physical computer. It's something that we load onto a computer that's virtual, that we can see a different computer that Cyber Patriots has already kind of hooked up and bugged and added viruses and malware that we remove, and users that are not supposed to be on there already. And we also got a few awards from Cyber Patriots, and this is us working. I'm not in this picture, but a few of a part of our team is in this picture. And
that's our technology AI slideshow.
Examples of the VRs and different things that we get to experience as students. I'm not sure if you would like.
I would like.
Would you like to? Sure. You want to go on a roller coaster?
Oh, I don't want to go on a roller coaster.
Would you like to see the Earth from the moon?
Yes, I'd like to see the Earth from the moon.
The button is over here.
Just press it. It looks like I'm on the moon.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh. I've got anything.
We have a rover here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, oh, I can show, 360.
Yeah. Almost like earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Mine's the.
Oh, this is really great.
Yeah.
I've looked at so many pictures of this, but I've never been in it.
Would you
Little
like
crater
to-
right over there. That's great. I like that contest you were in. Did you get some recognition at that? The cyber?
Yeah.
It's our patient.
Would you like to see the moon?
Sure, when's the competition?
Oh, well, we already had it this year, but it was, what was it? It was like,
It started like September, October.
Yeah.
Practice rounds. And then it ended in December. If we make it to the state round, we would do one more round, and if we were the top 3 in the state, then we would head over to nationals. So
So you've got your sights on that as years go on?
yeah, so and actually it's not so much as top, you have to place a certain amount in the nationals. So last year we did place first in Connecticut, but it wasn't high enough for us to go to nationals, and then last year we placed 3rd. They changed some of the structure of the test. So it was actually a little harder than previously. And you can test to it because he's been on it for 3 years.
Oh, really? So why was it harder?
what'd you say?
Why was it harder this past year?
They had like they had it more in deep where you had to go. Not like physically go inside the computer, but like you had to dig deep into information about the computer in order to find like backdoors and stuff. We did figure it out last year, but then this year they had this called like a forensic question that we had to find like the IP address of the backdoor. So we had to find where the backdoor was, but we couldn't get to there simply. It was like a lot more complex to get there. Like you'd have to do a bunch of commands and stuff to get there.
I feel like something that really played against us, that was really challenging for us, was the time they gave us.
Oh,
Like, if you go over time, they start taking away points. So then when they said I think we
Makes
got
you
4
nervous,
hours,
right?
yeah. We had 4 hours in total, and we had not used our 4 hours up. So it started like taking away points, although we hadn't been using it 4 hours, so it was like almost like a challenge, cause like last year, I've done it for 3 years in 6th grade. So in the other years, I feel like we've managed our time well and everything, and I feel like the time was like larger last year. But this time I was more like confused. So do you have any other questions?
I'm just impressed with everything that you guys are doing. And to know that you have the ability and the resources for this now.
and I think it sounds like you have a really good understanding of what malware can do.
Yeah.
And why you need to get it out, but you know how to get it out.
Yes.
That's what you're learning.
So one thing I can say once again about the techs, Evan and Jose, who you know from central office,
Yes.
actually helped to mentor these kinds of teams throughout the district and stuff. So they're out in the building on a regular basis. So, as Diana, you just mentioned about the presentation piece. Earlier, and you've been hearing from Kimberly talking about our portrait of a graduate, our critical thinking skills and now communication skills. This is a perfect example of how you align the idea of using passions and tools, in this case, AI and technology, to be able to make sure that kids have those skills that they need to be successful in the world.
And then, as you just now, they've explained what they've learned by using something that we are not that familiar with. I mean, I did not use AI when I was putting PowerPoints together going to school, so you're teaching me something. And I certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, I went to the moon just now, so.
Yes, you did.
I mean, I'm like a part of a lot of stuff in the school, and one of those is the student tech team. And I happen to fix a lot of computers. I know how to fix our computers, the loaner computers, sometimes even teaching computers, replacing their screens, the bezels, the outside. And keyboards, sometimes even replacing the battery. I've fixed so many at this
The
point.
bezels, I can't believe you said that word, that was, on Wordle.
It's the plastic piece of.
I didn't know it was an option, I didn't pick it, you know, and I just learned what that word means, yes, on the edges, yes.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are like so many cool things we get to do because we have access to like technology, like online field trips, our STEAM Wave, STEAM days, all this stuff. It's just way easier and way more fun to do with the access we have now.
With the access and the understanding you have now, I mean, you understand kind of how it works.
It's like a very big part in our modern day society. It's crucial to understand. And that's why I really like our school because we have such great access to it.
Yeah.
A few weeks ago, I had an ELA class with Mr. Yak. We did this virtual field trip with the VR goggles where we could go to a concentration camp in Germany, which was originally controlled by the Nazis. We could see towers and like fences and gas chambers and all sorts of stuff that they would use to do stuff to people inside of there. But it was kind of cool because you get to see what those people kind of experienced inside there. We also did a video where it was a reenactment, but we could see everything that happened in World War II, but it was just a reenactment. So it was, so we didn't get to see exactly, but we got to see what it would be like if we were there.
So, I mean, a deeper understanding of a point in history.
Yeah.
Where my experience would be to just read about it and with my imagination, imagine it.
Yeah.
But then
now we could actually see it.
Actually see it and then think about what it means.
Adding on to what he said, last year in seventh grade, I got the experience, we were learning about continents, but we were specifically learning about South America. And so a big part of South America was the Amazon rainforest.
Yes.
So in my social studies class, we actually got to use the VR goggles and kind of see the what happens in the Amazon. We got to see like the different species, the habitats, like how it feels. And it's just like an emotion you feel being able to explore something that you never thought you'd be exploring.
Didn't it actually feel like you were on a raft or something?
Yeah, and then we also got to experience like people's day-to-day lives in the Amazon, like how they worked. So it's just like a unique experience.
Were you gonna say something?
I have a question for you guys. What did you guys want to be when you guys were kids?
I actually wanted to be a zoologist.
Zoologist? Well, ChatGPT could help you with that. You could search up facts about zoology and it will tell you a bunch of facts about it. Because I want to be a singer when I grow up, and I tried using ChatGPT for that, and it did give me some examples of song lyrics.
They're gonna make us go home and do homework and.
Well, maybe we should do that. And life isn't over. What are we gonna do when we grow up? I love that question. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I mostly wanted to be a dancer. And explore. I wanted just to travel and explore and see things like the Amazon.
Yeah, not the VR.
Like the top of the Empire State Building and some of the things I have done, but
So if you ever get a VR goggle, you could just go almost anywhere that go where you want to go. Honestly, that's like I said, go where you want to go with the VR goggles. You won't be able to physically experience it, but you'll be able to visualize it, and you won't have to imagine it instead. Instead, you'll be able to visually see it, and you already know, and then you build up on what you're seeing.
Right.
I mean, like, why spend $1,000 going to Europe when you can spend $999 on a VR headset?
And travel to multiple places.
Yeah, I go to multiple places. Cost efficiency.
You are a good communicator, let me just say that.
You could go anywhere, you don't have to go outside, you can use it in your house, you can use it in your bed, you can use it in your diaper, anywhere.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll take the day off tomorrow.
We didn't hear that.
Louis know about it?
Thank you for staying up so late. Oh, hi.
This was wrong, was a lie.
Nobody shows that to me today.
We're all robots.
Yeah, we're all robots.
Thank you for spending your evening here.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I'm exhausted.
Yes,
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
I'll see you soon. Stu.
Yes. There was no.
No, it's been so cold and stuff, like everybody's busy kind of. When Kate wants to do stoop, I can't do stoop, you know, then it's like too cold. No, hasn't been. She tried one night, but it was started raining. We all put coats on, we were gonna go and then like looked out, it started raining, we went to Patty's.
Well, next time, hopefully soon.
See you around.
Right, that's all.
What did you get? Oh.
I'll bring some.
I know you forget about these things. You know. New normal. Or not normal.
Yes, true. I think I love that. The kids were so good.
Yes, they were that. They were, someone left their glasses.
That's Miriam.
Okay.
She sent me.
Okay, good to see you.
Congratulations.
One of those is water.
That's amazing.
And the papers.
Yeah, this is outstanding. A highlight of my day. Absolutely.
You did a great job.
We saved the most amazing, delightful for the end.
Yes,
The kids were
yeah.
just. Yes, I got yours. Yeah, I click your seat.
Yeah.
And I think we can put this back. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Mhm. The last one came.
Yeah.
The pizza party, I think.
Okay.
There, we're missing one more group when they're coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to my parents. And my daughters.
Yeah, they're just gonna say.
Where's there?
Up to there.
You're voting in the back.
So bad.
Oh, there's a bunch of those chips over there. You want So. Are we on?
Yeah.
We're good. So I hope this gives the board a glimpse of some of the amazing work that's happening across the district. And I know that our scholars were the highlight of the evening. So you get to see our future cybersecurity and digital media experts. They're studying very young, so they're going to be well equipped for the future ahead. So I want to thank all the scholars here this evening for doing a phenomenal job and for doing great work that's going to keep our district safe. I know you presented to the board about some of the features that you're looking into to make sure that everybody is where they need to be, but also how you're thinking outside the box as we continue to embrace AI across our schools. I want to thank the staff that's here because the kids are only as good as you help them. And for all the committed parents that are in the audience. I turn it back now over to the board. I don't know if you want to say something to the
Is
team.
there any comments from the board?
Well, I said it in the room to you guys, but publicly, again, I'm amazed with the great work that you are doing. Continue to do what you're doing, continue to shine, to the teachers that put the effort in and to guide them and direct them. Thank you for that. I just wanted to say to you guys, good job. Keep up the good work.
I'd like to echo that. It was so, speaking to the students, so wonderful to see your eyes smiling with knowledge of how to interact with the new technology and how to share what you know with us. I very much appreciate it and really proud of you.
I think the word is impressive.
Very impressive.
From the ages and everything that you already know and what your future can bring to you. Alone right here, Mary Ellen said it before, you know more than we do. And that's amazing. And thank you. That was a great presentation. I really enjoyed it. And maybe we can have a part 2 someday.
Yeah.
And also too, they illustrated to us the whole notion of the portrait of a graduate, right?
Yes.
They came across with thoughtful, mindful comments, and you were very articulate and you were effective communicators, the way that you stood up and you spoke. So you kind of made that complete circle for us to see what it is the administration is working on with regard to that, the notion of the portrait of a graduate. You demonstrated that to us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Now it's time for me to go to bed.
So I'll turn it over to you, Madam Chair.
Again, I want to thank you all for spending your evening here.
Thank you.
I love our workshop meetings. Really seeing the work in the district. It's really.
It's right there.
Beyond all the knowledge.
Roman road?
You can tell. They've got a community, they've really got their community there.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's one
Thank you.
person.
Next item on the agenda is public comments.
We have Mary Jordan. Please state your name and your address.
Right here or just in?
There's fine. And of course, remember, you've got 3 minutes.
I won't take 3 minutes. I hardly ever speak at a workshop because it's late. Mary Jordan, 9 Mott Avenue. I just wanted to thank you for approving that field trip. I heard your concerns. I understand there were very, felt concerns, and I will undertake to work with the parties to make sure that there's no recurrence.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Very appreciative. Okay. If there's no other comments for the evening, I'd like a motion to adjourn. Jasmine, seconded by Howard. All in favor?
Night, night.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Good night. Good night.